Hey, how's it going everyone? This is the Anime Man. So I recently found out that this year of 2017 actually marks 100 years since anime was first born. Happy 100 years, fellow otakus. Our species is a fragile one that likes to sit in their room all day and watch pictures of people do things that we could never hope to achieve in our wildest dreams, but the dream stays alive, ladies and gentlemen. The dream stays more alive than it ever has before. Seriously though, it's kind of cool to think that as an avid otaku and member of the anime community that I'm here to kind of bear witness to a pretty momentous occasion in anime history. And so to celebrate with you all during the rest of the 2017 year, I decided to kind of compile a unofficial series where I look back and analyze and do all sorts of videos discussing the 100 years of Japanese cartoons. Because if I don't get them done this year, then it will be 2018, which will be the 101st year of anime, and that doesn't quite roll off the tongue as well. To begin with this unofficial series of 100 years of anime, I first decided to start from the bottom. Now we're here. Running it back all the way to the beginning of the timeline by asking myself one simple question. What was the first anime that was ever made? I mean, I had an easy target to aim for. It's knowing that it's the 100th year of anime in 2017. I just had to do a bunch of research on anime that was made in 1917. Which, if you think about it like that, sounds fucking crazy. Like, anime in 1917? To put things in perspective, the grocery bag was invented a year after anime first came out. So, let's just say the bar was set pretty low for being first to things back then. But after a lot of research into this topic, and I mean a lot, what I found was pretty amazing, and the more I think about it, is probably the most important animation piece to ever come out in history. Let's examine. Japanese cartoons have always been influenced by Western cartoons, or should I say, animatics, which are nothing more than still frame shots or just a collection of pictures that are pieced together to make it seem like it's an animation but without the movement of animation. The most famous example of that to come out of Japan was a piece called Dekobo Shingacho, made back in 1914, which I guess you can say was kind of the catalyst to get the concept and the word anime out into the mainstream of Japan. Now, because they're not exactly moving and they're literally just a set of pictures, that doesn't technically count as being an anime or an animation, but it was definitely the start of those things. Mind you, these pieces were merely recorded as having existed back in history, and there are really no known examples of it ever physically existing to this day. Like, I couldn't even find a picture of this piece in Google Images, and no, I'm not desperate enough to go onto the dark web to look for that kind of stuff either. Fuck you. Just trust me, I researched, it exists. I'm a professional. But the biggest problem with this piece and many pieces to come after was the movement. How do we get these damn pictures to move? It was a bizarre concept, but a lot of dedicated creators at the time, through many trials and tribulations, experimented in all sorts of different ways. So much so that I couldn't possibly fit and explain all of them into a video that won't get you clicking off after 45 minutes. And all of which being a little bit too complex and technical for you to not feel like you're just sitting in a university listening to a lecture of some weeaboo giving you history of Japanese cartoons. But after many years of trying and failing, wow, this suddenly sounds like the intro to a shonen anime. After many years of trying and failing, shedding blood, sweat and tears, clashing fists with those who once fought alongside them, they finally collected all the Dragon Balls. Wait, where was I? There are mainly 3 individual anime works that are recognized as being the first ever anime to ever exist in history. Although all 3 of these pieces were made by separate creators during separate times, only one of such pieces still physically exists to this day. Created in 1917, Namakura Gatana is a short 2-minute animated short about a samurai who is stupid enough to buy a dull-bladed katana. And after trying to test out his sword on innocent people and trying to do these terrible things, kind of learns the fault of his ways. Hey man, it was simpler times, alright? The concepts are going to be simpler as well. well. Now, I could just go in and start analyzing the anime and talk about why I think it is possibly not only the oldest anime in the world, but also the most important animation piece in history. But before that, I'm gonna play you guys just a short little snippet of this animated short for you guys to just experience in itself. Because I think it's something that every anime fan, or at least dedicated otaku to the anime community, should at least watch. And I think it's something that they really need to fully immerse themselves in and kind of get a sense of what it's like before they hear someone else talking about it. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen, 1917's Namakura Gatana, also known as the world's first and oldest anime. Now at this point, there's probably two types of people watching this video. Those of you who are sitting back in their chairs, stroking their dirty neckbeard and compiling your own thoughts on what exactly you just bared witness to before hearing my thoughts on it. And those of you who are just sitting there blankly looking at your screen with a raised eyebrow being like, what the fuck, that's it? I'm assuming the large majority of you guys fall into the latter category, especially considering that this anime has a 4.8 out of 10 on my anime list, which, if you think about it, is pretty fucking unfair. Like, it's 100 goddamn years old. Of course it's not gonna be as good as your favorite anime of 2017. That's the same as people in the year 2117, 100 years from now, being like, oh, fucking Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash was a terrible anime. It's so old and it's so outdated, and actually even in today's standards, Grimgar is pretty shit. Ow! Got him. But I think it's really important when watching, especially these older animes, or in this case, the first anime ever fucking made, is to revert yourself back to the time when it was created and kind of remember at the back of your mind, like, the technological advancements and how society was in general, especially in Japan, when it was first created. I explained that side of things in more detail in my video, Is Old Anime Still Good? A link's in the description. And considering it's, again, a century old, I think that kind of plays into the factor of how we analyze it and how exactly we rate it, if we even can. In all honesty, I think it's kind of near impossible to give a rating to this anime, especially considering it's, you know, the first anime ever made. There's nothing else you can really compare this anime to, concerning there was nothing of its kind that came before it. But what I can do is tell you guys why I think this is one of the most important anime to ever be created, or even just important animations to ever be created. Because if you look closely, there are actually a lot of elements in Namakura Gatana that are still used in anime to this day. Firstly, let's look at the characters. They stand at about 2 to 2.5 heads tall, which is a unit of measurement when drawing bodies in art. Now, an average real human body stands at about 7 to 9 heads tall, but as we've all come to know, anime loves to portray, how should I say, unrealistic proportions. But you have to think, how did these creators kind of come up with the inspiration to draw these characters in this kind of almost chibi art style? I mean, there are historical reports and findings of manga series created all the way back in the Edo period, but the people portrayed in those kinds of manga are drawn realistically, 7 to 9 heads tall. No real person ever stood at 2 to 2.5 heads tall. And the concept of chibi and moe certainly didn't exist back in the time, so how did it get there? The next thing I noticed was the movement of characters, mainly in the scene I showed you of the anime earlier in the video. You can see every single frame has some kind of small movement, from the eyes rolling around in crazy directions to minuscule movements of the head, arms, and body. That intricate detail to get those minuscule movements would have taken a lot of work, especially back in the day, and is still kind of a tradition that is going on in anime to this day. Look at studios like Madhouse or Kyoto Animation. Their works and many others others are known for their fluid movements, vivid facial expressions, and almost exaggerated actions of characters. But it makes it more entertaining and immersive for us watching. Of course, modern anime works a little bit more differently, and they have constraints on budget and time, and can't really throw all their time and energy into one anime like they could have 100 years ago. But I think it's kind of cool that that legacy of intricate animation and attention to detail still exists in some really dedicated creators to this day. But what I think is the most interesting scene for me that really stands out is this one right here, where the old man kicks the samurai that's trying to attack him. Not only can you see these stars or sparks flying on impact, but the samurai also flies into the air and flips around as he gets knocked out of the frame. Now, I ain't no physicist, but I can tell you guys right now, that shit don't happen in real life. I mean, it's become such a common slapstick trope of these unrealistic movements and the sparks flying on impact and all these things that you can't really see in real life that are brought to life in animation. But again, these tropes exist because of previous works that they have been influenced by. But in the case with this one, there is no previous example, so how did it get there? There were no such things as wire stunts in movies, and there certainly wasn't 3D CG of people and things flipping around and doing these physically impossible moves. If all of that did truly come from the noggin of the creator, then my god, that is one imaginative motherfucker. And I think the third and final aspect of Namakura Gatana, which has really set stone for what anime was going to become 100 years from now, is that this shit's kawaii as fuck, yo. No, seriously, think about it. This anime is about a dumb samurai who goes and buys a katana but doesn't realize that the katana has a dull sword and tries to test it out on innocent passers-by. That shit ain't kawaii. If that shit happened in real life, there wouldn't be people standing around saying how fucking moe it is. But in Namakura Gatana, the combined effort of these chibi art forms and these kinds of slapstick comedy movements made this whole otherwise serious situation into a little bit of an adorable one. Which, if I may boldly say, could possibly be the first example of the kawaii movement, and is a movement that has made anime quite unique from other types of animation forms. Now, I know that claim might be a bit of a stretch to some of you guys, and I understand that the concept of kawaii and moe is subjective, but I truly think this might actually be the first ever example of it in anime, or at least something that became the catalyst for that kind of movement to grow later on. Now, there might be some animation experts watching this video saying this, but Joey, back in the earlier day, it's been known that anime took a lot of influences from Disney and other Western animation, so this shit ain't all that revolutionary. Yes, that is true for anime that became mainstream and when anime started to become an actual thing in the early 50s and 60s. But keep in mind that the first Disney animation ever made, by the name of Steamboat Willie, you know, the famous one with Mickey Mouse driving the boat, that was released in 1928, a full 11 years after Namakura Gatana. I mean, Disney as a company wasn't even founded until 1923. So technically speaking, Namakura Gatana isn't only the first anime to be ever created, but might also be one of the founding catalysts for animation in general. After looking at this animation, I just love to imagine how people 100 years ago would have reacted when they first saw these moving pictures. I like to think it would be synonymous to that of people reacting to VR and AR when it first came out a few years ago. People just getting their minds blown and being like, holy shit, this is the future. I mean, sure, this anime might not have the most diverse plot with the most amazingly developed characters with the most satisfying conclusion in the history of anime. And you might have gone and watched the entire anime and thought it was a shit anime, and anybody who says it's a fantastic anime probably has shit taste. Because we've never heard that before. But regardless of whether you like it or not, it is without certainty that this is the thing that started the fantastic and possibly life-changing thing called anime. And I think that in itself makes this anime pretty freaking cool. Now, if you want to act all hipster in the anime community, all you have to do is be like, bro, anime from the fucking 60s is like so modern, bro. My favorite anime, it's a one called Namakura Gatana, made in 1917. Don't worry, bro, you probably never heard of it. Actually, don't do that because nobody likes a pretentious otaku. Just say that Grimgar is trash and you'll be fine. But guys, let me know what you think about this. How do you interpret the first anime ever made? What are some other elements you see in Namakura Gatana that might have lived on in modern anime? And what do you think about this anime, not only in relation to the rest of the anime world, but also comparing it to other Western animations and other forms of animation types? Also guys, let me know all that kind of stuff in the comments below. And hey, you know what's the best way to celebrate 100 years of anime? By watching more anime on Crunchyroll. That was the most natural segue I've ever done. Let's share our love for anime by watching more anime on Crunchyroll's premium membership, which you can try out for free by using the link crunchyroll.com/animeman. You can watch anime for 1080p ad-free and like literally like an hour after it comes out in Japan. So you don't have to be like me and move all the way to Japan to watch the latest episode of Boruto. So why don't you go check it out if you haven't. Crunchyroll.com/animeman. Help a brother out and try out that free trial, yo. And if you enjoyed this video, then look out for more videos where I go out and explore more of the 100 years of anime. Let's all celebrate the 100 years of anime by not only checking out Crunchyroll, but also watching my videos on it, because anime's cool, yo. Anyways guys, thanks for watching.